In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform.
Hey, Broads and Books listeners. Erin and I have some big news, and we are too excited to keep it to ourselves. We are going to be at the Des Moines Book Festival on March 28th, 2020.
That's right. And not just there. We are going to do a live podcast on the main stage.
Live and in person.
In person.
In this live event, we are going to tackle a theme of authors with unique paths to writing. Come hear about authors who have defied the odds to create powerful works and be inspired by writers who've carved extraordinary routes to publishing.
We'll talk book recommendations, tell some of our favorite stories, and start your festival day with a laugh.
And you can be there, and we want you to be there, and
Yes.
please be there. We are so excited to meet some of our listeners and share some new recommendations with you. Plus, this festival is going to be huge. It's hosting some big names, including Taylor Jenkins Reid,
What?
Chuck Klosterman,
Come on.
Tayari Jones,
Yeah.
and Laura Prescott.
You know it.
So many of our faves.
So many big names. But if you can't be there in person, don't worry, because we're going to release that live episode from that day as one of our episodes. You can also be a part of the event by submitting a question that we might answer live on stage.
You could be name-checked on stage.
On stage.
So if you need a good book recommendation, or you're curious about us, you have a question, submit that to us at admin@broadsandbooks.com, and you can find that email as well on our website. Submit your question by March 26th for a chance to be featured at the event.
Mark your calendars and get ready for a great time with the Broads.
We are so looking forward to it, and who knows, maybe we'll even break out some tuxes, Erin.
Never know.
Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Amy.
And I'm Erin, and this is episode number 49. Mommy Dearest.
Dearest.
I had to say that spooky and it didn't work.
Just let that whole idea and everything it's associated with wash over you.
Mommy Dearest.
Get it into your head. So we're talking this week about moms that you might say could be bad. Or they could just be called bad, because we're going to dig into what some of the ideas about motherhood really are.
Does make a bad mom, per se.
Uh-huh.
Should probably take notes.
I'm in a real great position in this one because I got no skin in this game. But, you know, we're going to dig into it.
I can tell you that the title alone is terrifying, because if one of my kids called me this, I would be like, oh, I'm about to die.
Oh, God,
Like,
yeah.
I raised a serial killer.
Yep, you
That's
sure
the
did.
only conclusion if you say Mommy Dearest.
If Podcat could talk, she might call me that. And then
like in your sleep when she's trying to wake you
no.
up. Like she wants to be fed. You're like, Mommy, dear.
And she's going to start pulling wire hangers out of the closet and just pulling them over.
Yeah. Just with her little paws getting into the side of the bed. Wake up in the morning and step on it. What was that? It's a wire hanger. Oh my God.
It's a warning. I mean, I
Better
wouldn't
heat
put it
it.
past her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is a scary overlord.
Ruling this household.
Yeah. Well, as any single child does.
Yep. It's any only child.
Yeah.
Only fur child. God, I hate that.
I know.
I hate it so much when people say that.
Fur baby?
How's your fur baby? God damn it. It's not my baby. It's my cat.
Yeah.
It's another species entirely.
Yeah.
We are coexisting. She's letting me try to cuddle her every once in a while.
The only way that that's nice is if like you're showing up to events with a basket and she's dressed in like a bonnet and people are like trying to be kind to you and they're like, how's your fur baby?
Yes.
Like they're trying to be kind. Otherwise, it's no.
It's not
It doesn't
good.
work. No.
I don't like it at all.
No.
If you come up to me and you say, how's that fur baby of your Podcat? I'm going to act like Podcat and just swat you.
Yeah.
And then run away. They meow.
Which will help, I think.
It will help, too.
Just the swatting. Okay, well, that's one thing we know that you don't like for babies. I have a really important momming question for you.
Let's hear it, because I am an expert on momming.
I feel like this is one that you're very qualified to answer.
Good. Okay.
Have you ever felt bad for a mom after meeting her child?
Can I just say all the time? Because I think when I look at a mom and a child, I see an inherently abusive relationship. Because I know that child is in many ways, intentionally or not, beating the shit out of that mom.
Yeah.
And, just taking everything for advantage, just not appreciating that mom.
Right.
Whether the child is a well-behaved or a heathen child, no matter what,
Yeah.
I feel bad for the mom. I'm like,
See?
listen, you're trying to raise a human. You're not going to get any gratitude from that human. You're going to get a lot of judgment from everyone else in the world.
Yes.
You got a thankless job, lady. So yes, the short answer is all the goddamn time.
About everyone, apparently. We didn't even narrow it down, which I like. I like
every
that.
single mom, every single mom, and every single child. I go away and I'm like, whew,
Well, that happened.
that happened. Yeah. That's how I am.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Erin.
Yeah.
Since you are an actual mom, since you have experience, are there things moms get judged for that you don't think are bad, or that you would do?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's a few. Like the food thing. Like there's some moms that are crazy about food, like only organic, or like they're only doing certain things, or the kids. I'm not in that boat. I'm of the kind of like let them try it and figure it out boat. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't force them to eat things sometimes for their own good. Just like, no, you need to eat because it's mealtime.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't have the energy to spend on that. I also am not in the boat where I want to force them to do anything, like in terms of activities or that. But really the one that I noticed the most, especially when my kids were younger, is that I am not like one of those parents that feels like they have to entertain their kids 24/7.
Oh, God,
like I like them
yeah.
to be independent. I like them to have that time to explore
Yeah.
and create their own stuff in their room.
Create their own inner worlds. And,
Yes. Yeah. Do whatever, have creative time, do what they're going to do. Evan loves to make, stop animation videos. So he does that all the time.
Whoa,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. And he does it with figures. He does it on the computer and he loves it. It's like one of his favorite pastimes, but it takes a lot of time to make
God,
those.
yeah,
So-
that is so impressive.
yeah, he loves it. And he loves making little movies with Mason. Like he'll make Mason a little star. That's great. But if I was forcing activities,
God,
I wouldn't
no.
have come up with that.
Yeah.
I've been like, no, we're going to sit and play Trouble until somebody wins. Like, no.
But also then if you're forcing an activity, they're probably inherently not going to like it. They need to
Right.
find the
Yeah.
things that they themselves enjoy on their
Yeah.
own. Yeah.
And not to say that we're ignoring them or we're not doing things with them. It's just not, I don't feel the need for it to be all the time regimented. And I've met a lot of people that are that way, where everything has to have like a time and a place and a,
Every day is scheduled out.
yes, be very structured and you'll do this at this time and you'll do that. And no, that's not how I feel. Sometimes even things I love, I don't feel like doing. So then,
That's true. Even when I try to set structure for myself, I rebel against that structure.
yes, me too.
Like I set aside 2 hours for, writing, and then I'm like, hell no.
Yeah.
Not going to do it today.
Yeah.
Amy.
I'm like, it's too bad. This,
Yeah.
Reese's Pieces bowl and some TV is calling my name.
Are you saying that because I texted you last night that I spilled an entire box of Reese's Pieces once, cleaned it all up, put it back in the box because I was going to eat it, dumped it again, the entire box, cleaned that up again, finally used a bowl, still ate all the Reese's Pieces.
Yeah. I see nothing wrong with it. I liked your tenacity in doing it a second time.
And then later on, I found a few stray ones. I was like, well, they're still good.
That's like a little surprise.
Exactly.
So like a little treat I didn't know was there.
I made sure none of Podcat's hair was on it. It's fine. I probably eat a lot of Podcat's hair.
I was going to say, I don't think
Yeah.
that's probably the worst thing that's ever happened in a food area.
Nope. I think you're right.
Yeah. And if you're grossed out right now, I guess go online, watch some food videos, and think about what you actually eat in your food. Because according to FDA standards, there's a certain amount of bugs that can be in all food, and it's okay.
Oh.
So, just saying. Podcat hair doesn't sound so gross now, does it?
Okay. I just want to get off the microphone now and go vomit.
Just do it right there in that bag. I'll wait.
It's true. I do have a Whole Foods bag right there. Yeah. Perfect.
yeah.
Organic vomit.
You can see that sometimes I'm not the best. So speaking of that, do you think that moms get judged more harshly than dads?
You're damn right they do. I mean, I think it's very obvious that that's true. I think that dads can get away with the bare minimum, really. Any sort of, just from an outsider's perspective, again, it seems like any sort of, if a dad hugs their child, if a dad is changing their diaper, if a dad is doing just some of the many responsibilities that have to happen with parenthood, yay him.
Yeah.
Mom's just expected to do all of that stuff.
Yes.
And if you don't, well, Jesus, what are you doing?
Right.
You're a terrible mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not taking care of that. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I saw a bit from an Ali Wong comedy special where she talked about this, especially. Apparently, her husband changed diapers, and she went to a party and was telling people this, and they're like, "Oh my God, your husband's incredible, changing diapers." And she's like, "Huh, cool. I do that all the time. Also, I put my child skin to skin contact, and then she vomits all over me. So that's my reward
Contribution
for
to
being
this.
a mom."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can. Yeah.
Erin, do you think there are universal qualities that make someone a good mom or a bad mom?
No.
Okay.
And here's why.
Okay.
I'm always scared of the word universal because besides illegal things, obviously.
Well, first off, you wrote this question, so
did.
you put the word in there.
I did.
So don't look at me like I brought that word
I didn't.
into the
I wasn't blaming
conversation.
you. I was saying in general,
say.
people that use universal.
You're right. Okay.
Because besides illegal things like abuse, the obvious things that clearly, that's not going to put you in the mom of the year category. I've always believed the philosophy that you're the parent to the kid you're supposed to be, because they're just for some kids, I would probably be a terrible mom because I don't organize their day, or, some kids, that's what they thrive on and they need the moms that are like that, or, they need the moms that have their outfit picked out beforehand, ready to go. Whatever. I don't know. Picking something off the wall. I don't know who needs that.
No,
Someone
I
out
was just
there
thinking to
does.
myself, I don't even do that for myself. So
Yeah,
that'd be rough.
But I feel like every mom is the mom they're supposed to be for their kids. So to say there's something universal wouldn't be quite fair, because what makes me a good mom to my kids might make me a bad mom to someone else's kids. So, because I'm sarcastic and jokey, and I do that with my kids. So I'm sure that there are probably kids that would be devastated by that. So,
but you've also said too that in the past, each one of your children are so different.
Yes.
You kind of had to be a different mom to each of them.
Yeah.
So there's no, even just in your own family, there's probably no universal standard.
It always feels like a war room, and you have 4 different generals that require a different conversation. You want to get the same result out of all of them, but they requires different tactics each time to get you to that end result.
So you're
some
running
of them
4 wars at a time.
Yes.
With very different tactics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them, I have one child that directness is the way to go. Just direct, lay it on him, let him think about it, move on. I have another one that you need to play kind of a verbal chess situation to get them to the point where they think it's their idea. And then you just kind of were like, that is a great idea. I have another one that is just purely logic. If you don't have a logical explanation, then there's going to be a lot of pushback. If you're logical, he's on board right away. It's over, it's done, he can handle it and move on. So it just depends on who you're talking to, what's going on. But if I try to come up with a universal quality,
It wouldn't work.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could say like one is just genuinely understanding that they're all their own human person. They're all their own entity and they're going to be different. They're going to think different. And that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to create a person for the world, not a miniature version of you. So
Even just that right there is a sign of maturity that I think a lot of people don't have. I think so many
Yeah.
people get into parenthood for the wrong reasons,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
and
yeah.
Trying to make
or they
meanings.
feel like they're not doing a good job because the
Yes.
person isn't the exact same, or that, you know, there's just so many things that different people bring that, you know.
You know, you mentioned that there's things that you might not make you mom of the year. What do you think would make you mom of the year?
Oh, God, I don't know if I'm in the running for that ever.
I think you are.
Oh gosh, is it like a backwards mom of the year? Like kind of like those awards for bad films.
Razzies.
Yeah, Razzies. Yeah, I'm the mom of the year on the Razzies. I don't know that I you know, as long as my children think I'm mom of the year, then I've
Yeah,
won.
there you go.
I don't think anybody else, you know, needs
I think
that.
they do.
Yeah, I think they do in their own
Especially
way.
now that they listen to this podcast and they're
Yeah.
like, hey, my mom's funny.
She's the coolest. No. Not any single one of them have ever thought that. They've all seen me fall way too many times to believe that.
See, that's part of the problem. When you live with someone and
Yeah.
you're that intimate, they're never going to see you
They
as
see-
totally cool.
Yeah, they see all those problems.
They see you throwing your coffee down the stairs before you come tumbling down.
Just making a bigger mess than is necessary. So I lose all credibility for messes because it will never be as bad as that one.
They've also learned not to startle you coming out of a room.
Yeah, so maybe, I mean, just by being me, I've changed their behavior.
Yes.
So
They
I'm
are
gonna
more
say,
conscientious
"Good
now."
Mom. They know not to startle me so I don't tumble to my death.
So generally, they go through life just like trying to be good to
They
people
want
around
to keep my
them.
cranium in place. That's a win. That is a
win.
win.
Yes.
That's a win, I think. Wow. Yeah.
I nominate you for Mother of the Year
Thank you.
2020.
Thank
I know
you.
it's only January, but I think it's gonna stick.
Well, I do have this one thing I've done with one of our children that I feel like I can share that is working really well for me.
Ooh.
Mike doesn't seem to get it,
Okay.
and I keep telling him. But so Mason, he's a fickle little guy, and he
This is your 6-year-old.
for some reason at some point in his head he came up with a scale of love. So like he'll say like, "Mom, I love you 100. Dad, I love you 0." Like if he's mad, right?
Okay.
Well, Mike hasn't understood that all he wants in this game is power. So I have opted out. I don't ever ask what my score is. I don't ever ask for lovies. I don't ever participate at all. Mike, on the other hand, has become like a desperate lover
trying
that
so
you
hard.
haven't called back for weeks. And he's just, what is my score? Give me a lovey. Like he's constant affirmation. And Mason takes such delight in it. He'll never, I mean, he sometimes peaks at 10, but it never really. And I just sit there and he'll be like, "Mom's 100." And I'm like, and I'm just waiting for Mike to catch on. You have to act indifferent.
Yeah.
And then he'll love you. Your indifference
There's
is
some
the magic
psychology
sauce. Yeah.
that you gotta adapt to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that idea so much of Mike just trying so hard.
It is. It's all the time. Yeah. In fact, we were in Target the other day and Mason really wanted something and he only had a certain amount of dollars. We're trying to teach him, you know, the value of a dollar. And we're explaining, no, you need this many more dollars. And he's like, well, how am I going to earn dollars? Because really to him, he only gets it as a gift. Yeah. And Mike said, well, for each dollar, you have to give me 10 hugs.
Oh, Mike.
And
Nope.
Mason thought about it for a minute and he was like, okay, I'll wait for it. Yeah.
Oh.
Gets out of the store. We get home and Mike's like, okay, you owe me the hugs. And Mason's like, yeah, it's only going to be 3 now. I was like, you can't argue. That was a terrible plan. You didn't ask for the lovies on the spot. You just gave him the thing and then thought he would give you them when he got home. So I think clear back in the Target aisle, Mason clicked there quicker.
Oh,
like,
for
sure,
sure.
yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Then I'll get this thing. By the time I get home, we're done.
It's kind of terrifying that he's so much smarter than your husband already. Like,
Yeah.
he's just really figured this out.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And Mike was just so hurt. He's like, that's not what we negotiated.
Mike just wants to be loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is going to be a lovely ongoing saga.
It is. It's already an
Yes.
ongoing saga. It's just such a test of wills that I love. And I win just by not
Yeah, you
participating.
do. By just being indifferent.
Best contest I've ever entered.
Man, if that's
right up my
motherhood,
alley.
I could totally do that.
Just I don't have to do anything.
So,
Cool.
okay,
And I
great.
win.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
Best
kinda-
sport ever.
That's what I need to do more with Podcat. Just be completely indifferent. She'll respect that more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In those kind of personalities that want to be dominant, that's apparently very respectful.
Because when I pick her up and try to hug her, she submits for a while and then scrambles away. I'm like, okay, all right, all right. All right. Well, Mike, I feel your pain.
I think we all do. It's hard to watch.
Okay. Well, on that note.
Well, so like you mentioned, though, we have picks that are, I mean, hard to argue that the mom isn't anything but terrible. And we also have picks that make you wonder, but is that bad?
Exactly. So,
is that bad?
some, brain teasers for you.
Real
We're going to
complex
dig into
puzzles.
it. You bet. My first pick, my fiction pick, is called Idaho by Emily Ruskovich. This was from 2017.
Okay.
And the book opens on Anne, who is living in northern Idaho on this very remote plot of land with her husband, Wade. And she's sitting in this old truck that's sort of been abandoned on this property. And this truck is where years ago, Wade's first wife, Jenny, killed one of their daughters with a hatchet. Yeah. So Anne's taking a real moment.
Wow.
Yep,
We were in Idaho. We're in this
Yep.
abandoned truck. I was thinking she was having a contemplate a moment and then death by hatchet.
Death by hatchet.
Okay.
So this act is one, obviously, no one can really understand. Anne is married to this very grieving man, Wade. Wade can't understand it because also he's starting to experience early onset dementia. Oh, no. So he's starting to lose his actual memories of his daughters as well as this act and his wife. And then Jenny, too, who killed her daughter and is now in a woman's prison and still can't quite figure out what the hell happened. Like, what is going on?
Oh, my gosh.
So from there, the book spans 40 years. It's going back and forth in time. It's jumping from character to character to explore really that one moment in time. So we see the mid-1980s when Wade and Jenny are first together and they're trying to start this life in these very remote mountains of Idaho. We see the 2020s when Jenny is released from jail and then has to figure out, like, what do I do with my life now? And throughout, we see moments of Anne, the second wife, trying to discover the truth of this story, but also sort of help Wade through his crumbling memories. And soon, he won't even remember his dead child. He also won't remember that their other daughter took off that day and has never been found since. She saw what had happened in the truck, ran as a 9-year-old probably should, and has been lost ever since.
She was only 9 and she's been lost. Oh, my gosh.
And the daughter that was killed was 6. So these were very young children. So I chose this because it's centered around, like, the worst idea of what a mom could do, right?
Yeah.
Kill your children. But there's a mystery to it, why it happened, that's just absolutely heartbreaking. But what I love about this is how rich it is, too. It doesn't stop at easy answers. It doesn't just say, yes, she's a bad mom, and then move on. It really digs into, like, what motherhood entails as well as what family means. It explores, like, all the dark places that love can take you. It's a very sort of quiet book, if you know what I mean, and it's a sort of a small story, but it's just huge in scope, too. There's also a great story with the author. In researching this, I found out that Emily Ruskovich grew up in this area in Idaho, in a very remote mountain house with no electricity, no running water. And so she pulled some of the details that you'll find in this book, which are just beautiful, from her own life.
Wow.
Also, this is her debut novel, and she won the International Dublin Literary Award, which is the largest monetary prize given to a single author. Wow. And the craziest part of it is that librarians nominate books for this. So there was a single librarian in Bruges, Belgium, that read this book, nominated it for the prize just because she loved it, and then she won. How crazy is that?
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
I'd never even heard of it, but it sounds amazing.
I found it, I think, like Barnes & Noble. It was just on one of the tables, and it looked kind of interesting. I was not fully prepared for how deep you get.
Yeah.
The combination of, this sort of mystery as well as Wade's dementia is just utterly heartbreaking. I think I was sort of teary at the end, which doesn't really happen that often for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Wonderful book. And like I said, no easy answers, which I think is sort of the hallmark of maybe some of our picks today, is that, yes, from one perspective, this is a terrible mom for killing her child. But on the other side, there's a lot more involved to it.
Yeah. Okay, well, my first pick for this fiction category is called Mother, Mother by Corinne Zalikas. And it was published in 2013. You might remember I actually recommended another book by her called Smashed, which was more of a memoir. This is a fiction book, and it features the Hearst family. Josephine is the mother. They have 2 daughters, Rose and Violet, and 1 son, Will, and their father, Douglas. So it seems great. They live in this beautiful home. Douglas has this great job. Josephine's a very doting, involved mother. Their kids all seem super, ready for whatever life is going to bring. And then Rose runs off with a mysterious boyfriend.
Oh.
And chaos ensues.
Chaos ensues.
So in this moment, all of a sudden, the mother's attention becomes really, really focused on Violet since Rose has run off. And Violet is increasingly not able to handle this high amount of intention and where all of her mom's kind of grief and everything is pointed. So she starts going on like extreme fasts where she's not eating, or then she's doing like crazy wild things to her hair because her mom's very particular about her appearance. She begins experimenting with drugs. And in the meantime, we find out that Will has been pulled out of school because it's discovered that he has epilepsy and a form of Asperger's. And so the mom's decided she's going to homeschool him. And in the middle of this, you have the father who seems oblivious to everything that's going on at home. So in one quick dinner, everything becomes like irreparable after this act of violence takes place at the dining room table. And at the end of that, we find out that Violet is in a mental facility under lockdown.
Oh.
And we're faced with this incident, this visit from Child Protective Services, because to see what's going on with the sister and brother, to see what's going on with the mom. And just like that, you realize that everything you thought about this family is exactly wrong.
Oh my gosh.
That everything that was perceived on the outside is the exact opposite on the inside. So it's a very like dark psychological thriller. You think it's one thing and then it's entirely different, but it's a really emotional experience too. And I think it's because this is one of those where it's pretty cut and dry that the mom's just terrible. So because of that, it evokes this really emotional, heartfelt part of a psychological thriller, which I don't think sometimes happens.
Yeah.
A lot of times in psychological thrillers, they might give you a backstory or something, or
Which is supposed to explain everything.
Yeah. And this, it's not so much the backstory. It's just this relationship that you're watching is just overwhelming as a reader. And as you're experiencing this with Violet and Will, you're just kind of, you feel the blows almost like they do. So I can't tell you much else because it comes to a crazy conclusion, and I don't want to give away anything because, like I said, it's kind of a mystery thriller along the way. But it was perfect for this category because Josephine is like the worst.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and Douglas isn't that great either, but I mean, whatever.
He's just off in his own little
Yeah,
world.
he's just
And,
ignorant ostrich, head in the sand. Like, I don't want to. I'm going to pretend none of that's happening. Yeah,
So does the book start with that dinner event?
sort of. Yes,
of.
it hints at it, and
Okay.
then we're going backwards, and then we're
Gotcha.
getting
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's so many
Wow.
things that I didn't even realize that were going on because you're kind of being told the story from different viewpoints, and then as you're starting to put it together, you get these feelings, and then you're like, oh I thought, oh no, it's something different. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. It was great. I thought she's a phenomenal writer. I loved her memoirs, but then this was even. I thought, man, she can do everything.
Yeah. I
So-
was just thinking that
Yeah.
that's such a skill to be able to do both genres like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was great. But
Okay, so Josephine's the worst.
yeah,
All right.
that's what the title could have been. Josephine's the worst. But they went with Mother, Mother, which is also kind of
That is
creepy.
real creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have named our episode that, and that would have scared off a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Even this one is probably going to scare some people
Mommy
off, but
Dearest
yeah,
is rough.
It's real
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary. And it would fit for this. She is definitely a Mommy Dearest. Woo.
Well, for other genre book, so the title of this is called Dear Scarlet, The Story of My Postpartum Depression by Teresa Wong. Oh. This is a graphic memoir from this year.
Oh.
And I want to start with this quote that she says, "To this day, whenever I hear about mothers who abandon their babies or drown them in the bath, I feel very, very sad. But not only for the babies. I was lucky because I knew I could never hurt you, but I understood what it was like to feel trapped. I fantasized about leaving, just getting in the car and driving away." So I love this because it starts with this idea that moms are supposed to be instantly in love with their kids, right? Like that's what we're always told. We're supposed to know exactly what to do. We're supposed to love being a mother from the very start. So someone who doesn't, like Teresa Wong, she thinks in her first months of having her child that she must be a bad mom because she's not feeling any of this and she's feeling horribly trapped and she's feeling so depressed in so many ways. So she must be a bad mom. So this book is a graphic memoir, like I said, but it's posed as a letter to her kid, Scarlett. And she describes the days in the hospital after giving birth where the nursing staff don't tell her how much blood she lost and how much like this is affecting her body. They're too busy to help with the newborn. She shows the first few weeks at home where she just has this deep sort of otherworldly exhaustion, just bone deep. And that leads to depression and then to guilt and then to boredom of being around the baby. And she talks about how hard it is to breastfeed with the anemia from the birth, making her feel weak. She talks about the constant crying that she is having, the isolation, the fact that no one around her seems to understand what's going on. So in these months, Wong eventually understands that she's struggling with postpartum depression. But before that, she convinces herself she's a terrible mother who's going to fuck her kid up. And she feels so alone because of it. But she, as it says here, 1 in 7 women who give birth will experience this. And women of color, like Teresa Wong, are twice as likely to suffer as white women, which I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
So I chose this book because that idea of being a bad mom, whether you're suffering from postpartum depression or maybe even not, it just seems so universal. This idea that you're a bad mom if you don't love your child instantly, if you struggle, if you feel trapped. And thankfully, Teresa Wong, she had the resources and the support to find help. And she goes on to have more children, actually. And knowing what she knows, then she tries to, further help herself with those resources. So in researching for this week and reminding myself about this story, I found a number of articles that talk about discovering this book. And the writers of these articles found that this was helping them name their own experience, like find a name for what had happened to them. They had felt so isolated and alone and terrible. And that to me seems so powerful that this book could do that. I also found that she had originally planned to enlist a designer or illustrator because she doesn't have that background. But she started putting a storyboard together, which is sort of these very sort of simple drawings. And she showed it to others, and they were like, that's actually perfect. It's the perfect amount of drawing for this concept that you're doing. So she wrote it, she drew it, she did all of it.
Wow.
And it's really remarkable, both the visuals and then the story itself. So like I said, I chose it because I think that idea of being a bad mom can be so much more maybe terrible than, the fear of being a bad mom can then just make you crazy in so many ways. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's kind of heartbreaking. I remember one of the first times that I remember hearing about postpartum depression as an adult woman, which it's weird because
isn't it?
It doesn't get discussed a lot. I think slowly, maybe more and more in the last few years, it's been discussed more. But this is so silly to equate it with this. But it was when Tom Cruise went after Brooke Shields for being on a prescription drug because he's, from Scientology. And he said how bad that was. And she came out and said, this was a necessary thing that happened after my postpartum. And everyone was so divided about that. And when I look back on that now, I think, what? I mean, even then I kept thinking, well, I don't understand why anyone could take a stand on the other side of this. Given other things like she mentions that other tragedies we've heard about with mothers suffering from postpartum. Here's someone who was, actively, got help and is doing, what's necessary to get herself back to a healthy place. And you have a problem with that and something that you yourself can never experience. So
what do you have to say about it anyway?
I just remember that was, I just kept thinking, wow, that is a really weird thing to decide to take a stand on. And then, of course, then we learned much more, and then there was the jumping on the couch thing and all that. But
he's problematic in so many ways. Yes.
So many ways.
But I think you're right that there is still a stigma. I think a lot of people don't even understand that this exists, that, that this struggle is often real. Yeah, I think it's one of the many reasons, like we were saying in our first questions, like, dads get so much credit for so much stuff and women have to suffer so much more and maybe silently too.
Yes.
They're not, getting that public support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of those things, I've had children and I struggle even with close friends to be able, like if they were having children, it's a hard thing to talk about. Like it's not something during the pregnancy stage you want to put in someone's head, but at the same time, you do feel kind of a responsibility like, hey, this can happen, make sure that you of course, reach out to me. You're going to have a million feelings and none of them are going to seem right. But it's such an awkward, uncomfortable thing because you're making yourself vulnerable. And what if they don't feel that way? It's very uncomfortable.
And then it almost feels like maybe you're judging that or that person feels like she's being judged.
Yes, And at that point before you give birth, you're not really sure what to expect, especially if it's your first one. It's like you don't want to put anything in anyone's head that's going to be detrimental to their experience or process or add more feelings to something that's already so loaded.
Which is so terrible that this, this is literally how we keep the species alive, but we are not talking about all the things that happen with it, both physically, emotionally, mentally. None of that. It's so much is shrouded in secrecy and this assumption that, yes, women are just made for this. And so we will know what to do. We will know how to feel. And if not, you're bad.
Yeah. And that we have to perpetuate all the time that there's some perfect way to be, we see that so many times in movies and TV shows that people come home, they're handling it in stride. Oh, they're great. Oh, rocking my baby. I love being up at 2 a.m.
Oh, and I'm losing all the weight immediately.
There's a lot of that's really
body
difficult.
Shaming too.
Yes, absolutely, which also contributes to it.
But. Jesus. Being a woman's hard.
It
Erin.
is so hard.
God.
Yeah. So
me and my fur baby over here are just, Wait, where is she?
Fur baby left. Fur baby. I kind of threw up in my mouth when I said
gross,
it.
I know.
Fur baby left.
It also just sounds like you're giving birth to a monster. Like you've given birth to
like
some
Rock.
like you've had sex with a demon and out comes this fur baby.
For me, because you're calling it a baby, for some reason it's like a happy monster though. Like for kids, like from like Sully from Monsters Inc. Like it's real furry and crazy, but he's also got a good disposition. Like
I was going demonic. Maybe because of my experience with Podcat.
Yeah.
Because she's not the happy monster Sully guy.
No. She's furry, but not exactly great disposition.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that. It's just not sunny, as you might assume.
She is. If we did the curmudgeon episode again, it should just all be dedicated to Podcat.
So much.
She is the ultimate curmudgeon.
Yeah. But she's also like real pointed. Like she'd be the great like older figure in like a new version of Dead Poets Society of just like staring at you and like everybody hates you because they think you're so awful, but then they realize you're trying to teach them a lesson.
Yeah.
Sometimes when she stares at me, that's what I think, that she's just like, do better.
Yeah. She's disappointed.
Yeah.
She wants to drive you to better. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Get there.
Maybe that's what she's doing. She's driving us to greater heights in her podcast because of all that damn judgment in her eyes.
Yes. And we just did the really typical female thing and came up with an excuse for terrible behavior.
Oh my God. Okay, Podcat, you're just terrible.
Oh man, this took such a...
Put blame where it belongs.
Right on you. On you.
On you.
On you, you fur baby. Now I'm going to make baby sound like an insult. You fur baby.
You fur baby.
You're just a baby full of fur.
Maybe I should change our Instagram to just be like Podcat, fur baby.
Fur baby. Podcat, also known as fur baby.
Oh
yeah. That sounds like a
whenever
weird...
it says fur baby, I just imagine giving birth to this thing.
I don't know why you're going there.
It's so gross. Well, let's be honest. I don't have kids, so I'm terrified of the whole giving birth process.
Okay.
So I think I'm just it's just very easy to be terrified by it, especially the idea of a fur baby coming out of me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's terrifying for me too. I don't want to be around when that happens. I mean,
you're not going to be in the delivery room.
I'm ride or die, so I will, baby. I will. I want
to do Lamaze class before my fur baby comes.
Okay. All right. So you want to go to one of those classes. You want me to reach around and touch your belly.
That's right.
And say weird things.
Yes.
And then
I want you to be my partner in this.
Okay. All right. I will. I will. I'm just not signing the birth certificate.
You're not going to claim our fur baby?
Is it mine now? Fine, I'll claim it. Good Lord. Wow.
Suddenly we became life partners.
Yeah, having a fur baby that's already born. Well,
Okay.
I would be honored to
Bring
share
us-
fur
bring
baby
us
with
back.
you. Okay. Yep. So our next pick is another nonfiction, another genre, The Female of the Species by Joyce Carol Oates. Oh. So this was published in 2005. It's a collection of short stories by Joyce Carol Oates that's technically under the mystery and suspense category. But I think it's pretty typical for Joyce Carol Oates. I don't know if I would have thought that it was, shelved that way specifically, because I guess you could probably shelve all of her writing that way then. But it's really, all the stories are about when confronted with terrible evil, how evil then either manifests itself through women or how they deal with it. Whoa. So, of course, these very chilling stories, there's going to feature some mothers that are varying degrees of bad. Some of them are just, straight bad, as in like one allows her daughter to find a dead body she's responsible for killing. As the way to bring it out into the light.
Okay.
Another damages her son in such a horrific way that his vocal cords don't work correctly, and then he takes what he learned from her out into the world. Oh. So a couple just like not a real way to get around it.
Bad moms.
Bad mom.
Yeah.
Yep. But she also has stories in there where you're seeing damaged people and how they're trying to cope or do better. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot on the spectrum. Things that maybe, we could all say are bad, and things that we could say, well, some of these are product of environment or product of what happened to them. So she's really been a favorite of mine for a long time. I remember reading her probably too young the first time to really understand it, but I found this book randomly at a bookstore, and I hadn't heard of it, but I just happened to be looking and was kind of perusing her books, like, oh, I've read that one, and then I found this, and it is haunting, it's chilling, but it's a quick read because you want to keep going through the stories, and they're all just very interesting. The premise of them. There's one about an angel of mercy, which she kind of took from the story of the nurse that was killing people in the hospital, like the mercy killings, and how that kind of inhabits a new nurse that's working on the floor, and like that's one that you're like, there's so many. It obviously goes terrible, but there's just a lot of things to make you pause and think, yeah, that's bad, but also there's another side to the story. So I loved it for that. I thought it was perfect for this because it's not putting everything in that horrible bad mom category, but it's giving more things to think about in that area.
The name itself is kind of chilling. The female of the species. Yeah. Because then you're starting to think wild animals. You're starting to think about animals that eat their young and all sorts of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And the illustration on the cover is really haunting too. It's like a woman, like really pale, bright lip, like blue eye, like kind of like caught, like something terrible's happening to her, but you only see her face. Whew. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she went dark.
Wow. Yeah. For some reason, I just remembered, didn't you see the movie Mother, Darren Aronofsky and Jennifer Lawrence? Yeah.
Yep. Sure did.
As I said, like eating the young.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That happens in that movie. Oh. I was on like a 6-month movie ban from Mike after that. So, and I had to accept it because I didn't know what to say.
Wait, so you picked it, and Mike was like, that was terrible.
The worst description of a movie ever. Like, I didn't really see a lot of advertisements for it other than I'm a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan, and I knew, I was like, oh, this kind of artsy, whatever.
Yeah.
And they described it as a psychological thriller. So I thought, oh, we're going to have like some murders.
Yes.
And, there's murder, but it's not just like, it is psychological, I guess, in that the whole time you're like, how did someone get here?
Oh, boy.
I mean, like you mentioned, there's a part where they are eating a baby.
Okay.
I will tell you that.
Not a fur baby, like a real baby.
A real baby.
Real baby.
Multiple people left the theater.
Oh, seriously? I never see that happen. Wow.
Yeah. Multiple.
I mean, I'd heard that it just did terribly.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, I want to say something redeeming about it. Like, I thought about it for days because I thought, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
Just one of those times where we've talked about this before with art, where you can get tricked into thinking you don't get it. Like maybe this person is just smarter than I am or bigger than I am. And that's true. I'm not by any means saying that I ever understand every art form or anything like that. This was one that I just could never get there. And
It's so weird too. Like I've heard so many times about movies that can go wrong just because so many people are involved, you know, and maybe the editor did a weird cut or the director, you know, the vision wasn't what he or she communicated to the actors. Yeah. It sounded like everyone just kind of,
you know, and there were parts where I thought it was going somewhere and that would have been okay. And then it just went off. It was different. I'll tell you that.
Okay. Yeah, I've thought about that many times because I'm curious, but yet knowing that Mike put you on a movie ban, like it must just be abysmal.
It's
no redeeming quality whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to have you watch it just to be validated, to make sure that I didn't miss something or that Mike and I didn't. But it was just,
I'm sure you didn't.
Bizarre. I mean, people. Yeah, it was.
That's hilarious. People walking out.
But that's good because that's what I picked for pop culture.
Did you?
No.
Oh, okay. I actually was kind of looking at your list. Like, did she pick that one? No.
I blocked it until you said it. Oh, terrible.
So for pop culture, I picked a podcast. It is called Root of Evil, The True Story of the Hodel Family and the Black Dahlia. Okay, let me just start by saying prepare yourselves because this one may be tough.
Oh.
This podcast was designed to accompany an AMC series called I Am the Night, which I watched. It was really good. It had Chris Pine. It was directed by Patty Jenkins, the woman that did Wonder Woman.
Okay.
But this podcast is so much more. The show is hosted by Rasha and Yvette, two sisters who have grown up knowing about the mysterious background of their mother, Fauna Hodel. And Fauna wrote a memoir which was adapted into that series that I just mentioned.
Okay.
So as a teenager, Fauna learned that she was adopted. So she seeks out her birth mother, Tamar, and finds a very complicated woman with a bunch of other kids, too. She also learns about her grandfather, George Hodel. George, tons of evidence suggests, killed the Black Dahlia. And he probably killed other people, too. He also sexually abused his daughter, Tamar. They even went to trial, like an incest trial in 1949. And at the trial, you know, George is this successful doctor. He's a pillar of the community. So, of course, they're tearing young 14-year-old Tamar Hodel apart. As a result, Tamar is majorly messed up.
Yeah.
And she does some really, really terrible things to her kids as a result. She is just straight up a bad mom. But it's so interesting because as we were talking about before we started recording, actually, there's that line from Hustlers, right? That hurt people hurt people. She was absolutely devastatingly hurt by her father, but then she went on to create even exponentially more hurt among her family. And in fact, Fauna, the child that she gave away that was adopted, probably was the most well-adjusted because she lived in a decent family. Like, she didn't have to deal with all of this. So over the course of the podcast, we dig into a number of things. The Black Dahlia case and George's potential ties to that murder, which is so interesting. We dig into Tamar and that incest trial and everything that happened there. Then we hear from Tamar's other kids, and they talk about their mother and the terrible, horrible things they lived through, how they were treated horrifically, and how when Fauna enters the family, when she learns who her family is, how that both helps the situation and hurts the situation. It is absolutely haunting podcast because it really explores what makes this very particular, honestly, just bad mother and everything that goes into it. And it sort of tries to figure out, like, are we just destined to be who we came from? Because George Hodel is just straight up evil. And then he wrought evil on his daughter. His daughter then projected that evil out into the world. And is everyone doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? Which these two people that are hosting the show, this is all their extended family. So they're really trying to dig into this. You know? A warning, of course, there's abuse of all kinds discussed. There's also murder. But for all of that, the show is actually towards the end especially surprisingly hopeful because there is a reunion of all the siblings and the family, and they're talking about some things they've never talked about together before. So it starts to bring together this family and tries to think, how can we make things better? How can we live past our name?
Wow. Yeah. So would you recommend watching the series first and then listening to the podcast?
You know what? You don't have to. Okay. Yeah. The show was very, very good, but there were some departures from what we learn as the factual history here. Okay. It does give you sort of a sense more. You could do either one. You could watch the show and do the podcast, or you could just do the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds heavy.
That one is stuck with me. And also, I'm so fascinated now by this guy, George Hodel, and they dig into like one of Tamar's kids actually writes about his grandfather, and he was a LAPD officer for many, many years. And he's like, listen, my grandfather killed Black Dahlia and probably is a serial killer murdering all these other people, and has published books about it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Whew. Family trauma.
Whoa, kidding.
Yep.
All right. Well, for my pop culture pick this week, I picked a documentary called Generation Wealth. And this is a multi-platform project that was put together by Lauren Greenfield. She's actually been working on it since 2008, and it was released in 2017 as both a museum exhibition, a photographic book, and then a documentary film. Ooh. So she kind of documented her way as she was making all of these things. So essentially what happened is that in 2008, she started with, and it might have even been before that. She, early on in her career, she's a very famous photographer, a lot of success. She had gone to some LA schools to see how the difference between like kids that were really wealthy, because you had some of those pockets obviously in LA, and she followed them. Like she'd take pictures of them at school or out like on the beach and stuff. And so then when she thought of this project, she decided that one of the themes that she saw long term through all of her work was how wealth and image did the most to corrupt someone's way of life or to cause damage. And so she thought that she would kind of go back and see, like, find all those kids and see where they were today. So you see some of them in the documentary film. You see her putting together this whole book of all these different kids and all these different places. And she really, what's so great about this documentary is that she never really offers an opinion. She doesn't narrate any of it. She just shows you the image, and then she'll tell you that person's story. And you're kind of left with this idea to come up with it on your own. Like, oh man, I can see how that went so bad. I mean, she follows she became famous because she was the adult escort that Charlie Sheen, his whole, career kind of fell down with. She follows her and like her beginning and then where it ended up. So many interesting characters in there, so many interesting comments without being commented on, which I think is such a skill to not have to feel the need to narrate or tell the audience what they should be getting out of it. But in the background, there's also this really personal family tie. Her mom is also a very, very, very well-known photographer. And Lauren herself has feelings about growing up and the fact that when her parents were separated, she spent a lot of time with her dad because her mom would go off on missions to do photography or go off on assignments, and she wouldn't see her for long periods of time. And her mom kind of takes the position, I was creating my own path. Like I had a very prominent career that took me places your dad didn't. We shared that duty when we got divorced, and that is what it was. It had never occurred to her mom that there could be damage there because of that. But they have a beautiful relationship, like the way that they work that out. But then it's kind of history repeating itself because Lauren has two older children, one about to go to college and one that's, I think, just about to enter high school. And there are interviews with them about how they feel about the fact that their mom's done the same thing. I mean, she's been gone for, a month at a time or 6 weeks at a time. And her husband's been nothing but supportive. But she has her own mom guilt about this. And there's some heartbreaking interviews where you can tell that must be hard for her. But then at the same time, her boys are wonderful and super well adjusted. One's incredibly smart, got a perfect score on the SAT. I mean, going to have his pick of colleges. The other one is super talented. They both seem great, well adjusted. Their family life seems great. And so you're kind of left again with that feeling, with the bad mom feeling like, okay, somehow we're communicating to these kids that they had less than because the mom was the one with the prominent career.
Whereas usually it's the dad. And,
and we don't usually put that. I mean, the mom's involved. She knows everything that's going on with those kids. She's always around them when she's home, much like, a great dad would be if they had a prominent career. But somehow when it's the mom leaving the home, there must be some sort of damage.
And it's the mom's fault.
And that's sort of explored in this very secondary way in this documentary that I thought was so interesting and so powerful. Especially because it's not the dad putting it out there. He encouraged her. It was always about support, and he knew her career was huge and important, and it was going to go places. And She got one of her first big assignments, like, it was very soon after she had her first son. I want to say like a week. And she said, I remember freaking out and saying, see, I told you my career was over. How can I take that assignment? And now I'm going to be out of. And he said, you're going to do it. I'll take the baby and you're going to do it. And she said, so I remember she had, I mean, because she's a photographer, so she's documented everything. She had pictures of pumping for weeks, just overdoing it to get prepared and getting everything ready to go. And she still, you can tell, holds all this guilt about leaving her baby for.
Which is so fascinating too, that it's definitely not the husband putting that guilt on
No.
her. It's her own internalized shame that we are taught from the outside culture. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That had to be interesting, but also a little infuriating maybe too.
It was, and it was more sad. You just sort of felt like, oh man, this incredibly talented person, you know, is sort of struggling. And what was really sad is that there's a moment when her son that's going to college, she's interviewing him. So she's behind the camera. And the question gets posed, you know, do you think that it's been hard without your mom there? Something along those lines. And he makes the comment like, well, I mean, that's just how it's always been. Like, it's this very cutting, horrible way to say it. And I don't think he meant that. He didn't mean damage, but at the same time, you can't help but feel like that's something that's been sort of built into kids is like, oh, well, your mom was gone, so there must be something wrong.
Yep.
Instead of feeling this, not to say that he doesn't feel pride, but instead of that being like, no, it was fine. Dad was here. Everything was great. I'm used to it. And you can just imagine.
You're right. It's probably like maybe other kids at school. It's other parents maybe. It could just be just watching on TV and all the, moms that are supposed to be around all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was great, though, for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful messages in that just about what we're doing and what we're placing importance on. So I liked it. There's some tough stuff to watch in there, too. Just so you know, there's a couple, there's a couple scenes that are tough, but yeah.
I like that all of our picks, that they aren't really cut and dry. Like there's definitely some bad behavior in some of them, but in some of them it is, figuring out that guilt that we assume as women.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
What?
We're done.
We are.
But we're going to be back.
We are.
Next Wednesday, as long as you sign our fur baby's birth certificate.
Yep.
And accept that burden going forward.
All right.
But guess what? In the meantime, as Erin starts freaking out internally,
I'm sweaty.
I am sweaty. Is drawing on her notes because she doesn't know what to say. In the meantime, you can head to our website, broadsandbooks.com, and check out all the recommendations we made in this episode.
Also on the website, there's some killer bonus material.
God, there is.
One of my favorite things right now, Broads Talk Books with.
You know it.
Killer authors. So many great things on there. Now, if you subscribe in a podcast catcher, that comes right to you like an episode.
Yeah.
Boom.
Sorcery.
Yeah. Sorcery. Such a straight face. Sorcery. Yes.
I like that you agreed and then you started.
Yeah. I'm like, sorcery. Not technology, sorcery.
Yeah,
but really, check that out.
Yeah. And after you've checked all that stuff out, you're like, damn, these broads are awesome.
So awesome.
Give us a review. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, very simple to do. If you're listening in another podcatcher or podcast player, one wonderful site we've discovered that you can leave reviews on very easily is Podchaser. You can also find profiles of us as well as lists we made of all the podcasts we've mentioned in our episodes thus far.
Also, if you feel like, you know what, I like them, but I want to be a little more involved. Give us a theme idea.
Do you want to be on the birth certificate for my fur baby?
There you go. We'll give you that honor if you give us a great theme. A great theme equals parenting.
Dissuade people. Yes. So, okay, let's take that off the table.
Okay.
Just, no responsibility.
No responsibility. Just give us a theme. Like we said, even if it's just a tiny bit of a theme, you're not sure, but you'd like to hear something about.
You bet.
We'll make it work.
Yeah. You can find us at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our website. You can also find us at 2 amazing bookstores in the Des Moines, Iowa area.
Yeah, you can.
One is Plain Talk Books and Coffee with wonderful used books. As well as some coffee, as it says in the title.
Yeah.
And foods. Food stuffs.
Then, and local artists, I believe.
Yes.
You can buy their work.
And then guess what? If you head over to Beaverdale Books, you got brand spanking new books.
Boom.
Both of these places, we have displays, shelves dedicated just to us, where you can find some of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes.
Yes, and support local independent
Support
bookstores.
'em, you bet.
In the meantime, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
somehow you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.